Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. live English news edition. Here are the headlines. The head of state sends his best wish. United States, 1,738 dead in the United States in 24 hours. Hello and welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. Following the example of the Muslim world, Djibouti will begin tomorrow the blessed month of Ramadan, 1 month. The first day of fasting in the blessed months of Ramadan is Friday. This blessed month, the fourth pillar of Islam, is one of the most sacred practices of the Muslim religion. It is a month of recollection, forgiveness and cohesion. The blessed month of Ramadan is an opportunity to maintain and renew the spirit of mutual aid, fraternity and solidarity. Let us recall that beyond fasting, Ramadan is a privileged moment to meditate and read the Quran. It is in fact during this blessed month that the Prophet, peace and salvation be upon him, received the beginning of the revelation, the angel Jibril in the cave of Hira on Jabal al-Nur, the mountain of light. This blessed month of Ramadan comes in an exceptional period, 2020, where the world is struck by the COVID-19. The President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, who sent his best wishes to the nation on the occasion of this blessed month, does not fail to point out that Ramadan 2020 comes at a time when the whole humanity is struck by COVID-19. This is the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, and he said, I quote, "My dear countrymen, the months, the best and the highest have come to us. This is the blessed month of Ramadan. On this occasion, I am happy to extend to you all my best wishes, asking Almighty God to return it to us in kindness and blessings. The blessed month of Ramadan, in which the worship of mercy and goodness and sin multiply, sends a commitment to our noble meanings and noble ideals. More dear compatriots, the month of Ramadan comes this year when humanity is going through an unprecedented ordeal on its modern history because of the coronavirus epidemic that has swept the world. At first glance, we have been quick to take exceptional and urgent measures to address this global pandemic, to fight its repercussions and protect citizens. And we continue to implement these measures. As our Islamic religion demands, it is necessary in such difficult times to increase the dawah, to ask forgiveness and to invoke Almighty God. And in this regard, the opportunity of the blessed month of Ramadan should be seized in accordance with the recommendation of the High Islamic Council and like the whole Islamic country. We propose that the Taraweeh prayer be performed in homes, in the light of the continuing epidemic, and that the Eid prayer should not be performed as usual in public chapels. On the occasion, I cannot fail to convey my sincere condolences and sympathy to our people who have lost loved ones in the heavy rain that recently fell on our country, and we confirm our support and position alongside those who lost their belongings. In conclusion, we ask Almighty God to grant us success and payment and to accept our good deeds and free us from hell.
في هذه الأمطار الإعصارية نسأل الله سبحانه أن يمدنا بالعون والتوفيق والسداد، وألا يحرمنا أجر وفضل هذا الشهر الفضيل، ويتقبل صيامنا وقيامنا وصالح أعمالنا، ويجعلنا من عتقائه إنه قريب مجيب. شهر مبارك وكل عام وأنتم بخير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, salutes the memory of the late Dini Alayo. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, paid a vibrant tribute to the memory of the late Dini Alayo, a former RTD journalist who passed away today, Thursday. In his posthumous tribute, the head of state described the late Djiboutian as an accomplished professional who left his mark on the national media landscape. May God welcome him in his eternal paradise, implored President Guelleh before expressing his compassion and solidarity to his family, relatives and friends, as well as to the many colleagues he had during his long career. An experienced journalist, the late Dini Alayo long held the central position of editor-in-chief of Djibouti's national radio and television. Father of an important family, he had been in peaceful retirement for some years before being called back to God today. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raj'un. And now the Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, paid for his part in a vibrant tribute to the memory of the late Dini Aliyu, a former RTD journalist who passed away today, and expressed his deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased Dini Aliyu, and pray to the Almighty and Merciful to have mercy on his soul and to welcome him into his paradise, eternal paradise. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raj'un. Now, the Djiboutian press is in mourning. We have just learned today with sadness and dismay of the death of reporter Dini Aliyu. The defunct, Allah Yarhamu, was born in 1955 in the day. After a brief stint at the Labor Inspectorate, he began his career at the RTD in 1977 and was the first core journalist of the brand new Djibouti Radio Television. Fascinated by his profession, he did not leave it until his retirement in 2013, when he entered his career as news director. Dini Aliyu has devoted his entire life to the fledgling republic and has been involved in all events and all fronts. At a very young age, he rubbed shoulders with the greats of this world, as during his professional travels alongside the father of the nation, El Haji Hassan Guled Abtidoun, first president of the republic, and alongside the current president, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. During this period, Dini Aliyu will use it to train and coach several generations of journalists. His first colleagues were the great names of Djiboutian television, such as Khalid Haider, Abu Bakr Musa, Muhammad Dahir, Omar Ali Ige, Abdullah Salal, and Christophe Farah, to name but a few. Dini Aliyu will remain in everyone's memory as a humble man appreciated by all for his modesty, his sense of duty and moderation. He was also the first vice president of the first Djiboutian Journalists Association, which was chaired at the time by Omar Ali Ige. He was also the first Djiboutian correspondent for Radio France International RFI in Djibouti, paving the way for Djiboutian journalism to the rest of the world. It is through him and his correspondence that listeners around the world will follow national news. Dini Aliyu will not leave Djibouti for all that and has never been tempted, despite many opportunities, to go and work in French language news organization abroad. This is how he ended his career, exactly where it began in 1977, in what he always considered to be his home, the RTD. The remains of the deceased Dini Aliyu have been buried today in the privacy of his family, as he always wished. Dini Aliyu leaves behind a widow, 9 children, and dozens of grandchildren. Upon learning of his painful and sad loss, the Ministry of Communication, charge of Post and Telecommunication, Ridwan Abdullahi Badan, and the Ministry of Employees, the Secretary of State for Decentralization, Hamadou Mohamed Aramis, the General Directorate of RTD, Mr. Mahmoud Suleiman, and its staff, the Djiboutian media, audiovisual, print, and social network all expressed their deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased Dini Aliyu, and pray to the Almighty and Merciful to have mercy on his soul and to welcome him into his eternal paradise. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raj'un. The month of Ramadan comes this year, when humanity is going through an ordeal unprecedented in this modern history due to coronavirus epidemic that has swept the world. In this effect, the government has already undertaken measures to fight against this scourge. This means that mosques will be closed and a sheikh will read hadith and the Quran. The Secretary General of Health, Dr. Salah Benititwa, presented us the press briefing for this Thursday, 23rd April 2020. The situation of COVID-19 in our country is as follows. 347 tests were performed, 12 cases positive to COVID-19, 812 patients currently under treatment, 69 cases cured. We are registering again a high number of cured cases. For the first time, this number still exceeds the number of new positive cases. Regarding the situation of people currently under treatment, we affirm that they are all present a clinical condition deemed satisfactory without any complication noted. It is therefore our duty to reiterate again and again the importance of all the measures taken to limit the circulation of the virus. The Ministry of Health is not losing sight of the other health problems. Finally, the assessment of the cases of COVID-19 in Djibouti since the beginning of the pandemic is as follows. 10,609 tests have been carried out. 986 cases are positive. 252 patients healed. 2 unfortunately deaths. Please respect all the barrier measures and stay at home. The Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, chaired a meeting of the steering committee in the morning of Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, at the People's Palace. During this meeting, the Prime Minister gave an update on the status of the ongoing health response. The exchanges of this meeting between the members of the steering committee focused, among others, on the ways and means necessary for the strengthening of the health system's capacities. The Prime Minister urged the members of the government to continue and intensify the effort being made to manage this health crisis during the blessed month of Ramadan. The President of the National Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Ali Mohammed, invited the Bureau of the Parliamentary Institution to rule on two items on the agenda, the first concerning the legislation section, the second relating to the control of the action of the executive. On these first ages, President Muhammad Ali Mohammed, the Secretary Quaestor, the Secretary of the Bureau, and the Chairperson of the Committee on Legislation, General Administration and Human Rights, respectively, the Honorable Ibrahim Ahmed Abdo, Salaban Dahir Bile, and Kaltoum Farah Said, agreed on the transmission of a text of law and the urgent procedure to the Committee on Laws, which has retained the day of Monday, April 27, for the in-depth examination of the said text. Secondly, the Bureau of the Assembly scheduled a plenary sitting for Thursday, 30 April, to vote on the text analysis by the above-mentioned standing committee and to hold a specific hearing on the action initiative taken in the fight against the COVID-19. Finally, the President of the Assembly to the two Secretaries of the governing body of the parliamentary institution and their colleagues, the chairwoman of the Committee on Legislation, reiterate the importance of ensuring that barrier measures are taken at all times in all places to curb the spread of the virus, which has been hitting the world as much as our country since the beginning of the year. It is in a spirit of protecting and preserving the institutional legitimacy that the preservation and prevalence of human life that the restrictive modalities will frame, as it has been customary for more than a month, the plenary of 30th of this month. And now, in this context of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis in countries' responses to reduce its impact on culture sector, UNESCO organized the first online meeting of Ministers of Culture, which brought together 134 countries on Wednesday, 22nd April 2020. The objectives of the meeting included to foster a platform for regular dialogue with Ministry of Culture, to identify the economic and social challenges of the health crisis, to support the exchanges of experiences. The stakes of this meeting also focused on the urgent need to recognize specific measures to support the cultural sector, which is a vector of resilience in human development. It was on the basis of the questions posed by UNESCO that the Ministry of Culture of Djibouti directed his intervention during this platform for dialogue. In his speech, the Minister of Culture, His Excellency Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre, highlighted the measures taken by the government of Djibouti to curb COVID-19 and the contribution of the culture sector to mitigate the potential ravages of this pandemic on the Djiboutian population. The Minister of Social Affairs now in Solidarity, His Excellency Mrs. Muna Usman Aden, received this morning in her ministerial cabinet the Turkish Ambassador Mr. Salim Levent, accompanied by the coordinator of the TICA agency, Kutluhan Yücel, within the framework of the humanitarian and social response to COVID-19 pandemic in Djibouti. The Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity received a contribution from the TICA agency for households affected by this period of health crisis. Indeed, the ambassador was keen to encourage the effort of the Djiboutian government during this period of health crisis and thus reintegrate the support of the Turkish government to the people of Djibouti. The director of coordinating agency TICA, accompanied by his collaborator, thus handed over a donation that will be able to cover the food needs of 300 vulnerable households for 1 month. The Ministry of Social Affairs thanked Turkey for its support and friendship during this complicated period. Faced with this health situation that threatens the most fragile, it is more necessary to support each other and help the most destitute. This commendable gesture will give courage and positive benefits to the confined families. Still in the spirit of solidarity and donation, the East African Bank Group gave financial aid of 20 million francs. The Association of Chinese Companies Operating in Djibouti also contributed 18,726,250 francs. The Agents Handlers Union contributed 11 million francs, and finally the MTS provided support of 3 million francs. All of these contributions were handed over to Ministry of Budget officials, all with the aim of supporting the state's efforts to deal with the exceptional health crisis facing our country. Still in the same context, in this period of general confinement in the country to fight against the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, torrential rains fell en masse on our country during the night of 20 and 21st April 2020, causing heavy floods that caused death and material damage in this district of Warabale and Bahash. Therefore, in addition to its heavy responsibility to enforce the containment, it's reinforced controls at sea to observe the closure of maritime borders. The Coast Guard, under the leadership of Colonel Wais Omar Bokre, Commander of Coast Guard, launched simultaneously a rescue operation to assist flood victims and another operation to search for missing persons. Thus, in 48 hours of intense search and rescue, Coast Guard teams meticulously combed from end to end all the surrounding areas of the Humbuli Wadi, its junction with the sea and all sides of the sea. Their considerable effort resulted in the recovery of the lifeless body of the 6 people in the area surrounding the Umbli Wadi and its junction with the sea. Search operations are continuing again this morning to find another missing person. In parallel to the search and rescue operation, Coast Guard officers have been assisting more than 450 households in the areas most affected by the heavy rains. Now, the National Human Rights Commission, in partnership with Caritas Djibouti, today handed over a donation of hygiene kits to the civil prison of Gabod. This batch of kits, consisting of individual towels, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, and sanitary towel for female prisoners, was received by Lieutenant Hawa Mumin Jama of the Gabod Prison Management on behalf of the joint delegation CNDH Caritas Djibouti, led by the president of the CNDH, Mr. Saliban Omar Udin. This action is part of the fight against the global pandemic COVID-19. After Djibouti City now and commune of Balbala, the foundation of Diwan Zakat proceeded yesterday the distribution of collection Zakat of 2019-2020, and as well as the third and fourth installment of orphan sponsorship for 2019 to the population of the interior region. In this regard, a high-level delegation led by Director General of the Diwan, Mr. Suleiman Hassan Musa, visited the Ali Sabih region in the south of the country to distribute zakat to more than 140 families from poor, elderly, and disabled families, while benefiting from the sponsorship of 83 orphans. The distribution ceremony took place in the presence of representatives of the local authorities, including the Vice President of the Ali Sabih Regional Council, Mr. Noor Sair Gildon, as well as the staff of the Diwan Zakat Foundation. The beneficiaries of this financial assistance expressed their thanks and gratitude to the foundation, affirming at the same time the important role it plays in supporting the government efforts to improve. It should be noted that the Diwan Zakat stopped other team to the rest of the interior region to distribute this financial contribution to the beneficiaries of the poor families. In their intervention, the head of Diwan indicated that these distributions are part of the effort made by the institution to support the needy groups of the society. And now, also within the framework of social action, the Diwan Zakat Foundation yesterday distributed the 2019-2020 Zakat and the third and fourth installment of orphan sponsorship for 2019 to the population of the Dikil region. Indeed, more than 140 families from poor, elderly, and handicapped families all benefit from the Zakat, and 83 orphans have benefited from orphan sponsorship. The distribution ceremony took place in the presence of the Deputy Directorate of the Foundation, Mr. Ilmi Abdullahi Adar Anisi, and Mr. Siraj Mohammed Abdullah, Financial Manager of the Diwan Zakat, as well as representative of the local authorities. Moving now on the international news, the United States recorded on Wednesday 1,738 deaths due to coronavirus in 24 hours, a balance sheet in decrease compared to the day before. According to the count of the Johns Hopkins University, which refers, this daily assessment brings to 46 and 580 the total number of deaths recorded since the beginning of the pandemic in the United States, the country officially the most bereaved in the world by the COVID-19. The leading economic power now has more than 839,675 people infected by the virus. According to the continuously updated count, nearly 4.5 million people have been tested in the country. New York is the epicenter of the COVID-19 epidemic in the United States, although it seems that the state has overcome the worst of the crisis. Donald Trump decided last week that it was time to restart America, letting each governor make the decision according to the severity of the epidemic in his state. Some quickly began to relax the rules of distancing themselves in the state still under containment. Americans have for several days been holding demonstrations calling for economic recovery. And now, a message for our fellow citizens. Apply the bare measures, which are to wash your hands with soap very regularly, cough or sneeze into your bend of your elbow or a disposable tissue. Respect a social distance of at least 1 meter. Disinfect contact surfaces. Limit car or food travel to the bare essentials. Please stay at home. This is it for this edition. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful night.